Today, if you're watching this live, is by-election day in Gorton and Denton. I would say it's referendum day for Keir Starmer. Who's going to win? Find out my predictions right here on Lembit Öpik Live.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you!
Boring. Boring. Boring.
You got to work. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Greetings, one and all. Lembit Öpik here with a brief introduction and hopefully explanatory guide to the Gorton and Denton by-election. I won't keep you long today. We'll have a lot more to talk about tomorrow when we find out the result. But if you do want to follow up on this, there are lots of other people talking about Gorton and Denton as well. So let me try to be as objective as I can. My purpose today is, using my political experience, to give you some pointers about why you might want to care about the by-election there, even if you don't live there. First of all, what is a by-election? It's a way to replace a member of parliament if they leave. The outgoing Labour member of parliament left, he said on grounds of ill health, but there were some political shenanigans there as well. But what that meant was that Gorton and Denton, which is a constituency near Manchester, ended up not having an MP. Then you have a by-election just for that area, just for that one seat, not all 650, that's a general election, but the by-election for one seat. And anybody can stand. You could stand as long as you're right age and you pay a deposit. So there's a whole bunch of candidates and they all want to be the MP. That's what's going on today. So the electorate, as I've suggested, are people who come from that area. I think we actually have a map of the thing. Can we put the map up for them? There we are. Thank you. So there's Manchester. There's Gorton and Denton. That's the shaded area. That's the by-election. All the people who live there who are of voting age, they're entitled to vote. And there is a list of candidates, and I won't go through all of them individually because that would take too long. But essentially, there are two front runners here. It should be Labour, because the Labour candidate is in fact the person who Keir Starmer went and met ever so briefly in that picture. I think that's a real picture. I'm not sure if it's superimposed or not. It's hard to tell sometimes. But he went to visit the candidate, the Labour candidate there, and that should be the favourite because it has been a safe seat for the Labour Party for years and years and years, for decades, in fact. As it turns out, though, she's not the favourite. She's actually in third place when it comes to the odds, and we'll look at the odds at the end. The favourite at the moment seems to be this lady. This is the Green candidate with the leader of the Greens there, David Poulton, who's changed his name to Zach Polanski for various reasons. So the Greens are, according to the bookies, in the lead. But there's also quite a lot of discussion about Reform UK and their candidate. So we've got Reform UK in one corner, if you like, the Greens in another. Now let's talk about the Greens for a little bit, because this could be confusing. Why would the Greens be doing so well? Is it because suddenly a whole load of people want to save the planet and they're persuaded by the environmental agenda of the Greens? I don't think so. I don't think that is what's going on. I think the Greens are doing well because, this is my opinion now, because there are people who don't like Labour, but they don't want to vote Reform. That's what I think is actually happening there. Once again, I could be wrong, but it's hard to understand otherwise why a Green Party candidate would be doing so well. There's no history of having a Green a powerful Green force in that area. So this lady here seems to be benefiting from the woes of the Labour Party. Just one more word about that. The Labour Party, of course, could be doing much better than I think, and I'll be the first to admit tomorrow, incidentally, if the Labour Party does do well, and I'm wrong. In which case, the concept called shy Labour voters. We used to say shy Tories. Now it's shy Labour voters, people who vote Labour, but they're embarrassed to admit it because of the general anger and negativity that they hear from other people about Keir Starmer and others. So what I think is happening here is that I think that the Green candidate is picking up disaffected Labour voters. But the other front runners, and it's almost neck and neck as far as I can see, it's this fellow here who's with Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK. Now, they've been running a very intense campaign. And I think it's fair to say that either Nigel Farage's candidate or Keir Starmer's, Nigel Farage's candidate or the Green candidate will win. There's a really outside chance that Labour will win, but I doubt that. I really doubt that. So that's the big picture here. Now, why do I think this is a referendum on Keir Starmer? It's because under any normal circumstances, the Labour Party would hold this seat. They had 51% of the votes the last time in the 2024 general election. So for them to fall from grace so far that they lose the seat to parties that were rank outsiders the last time has to be considered a referendum on Keir Starmer and his party. There's no other reason why Labour would lose this except for the national situation. That's why I say this is a referendum not about the candidates in the locality. It's a referendum about Keir Starmer and, to an extent, the other parties too. What are the mainstream media doing about it? Well, they're being selective. And this is one of the problems, I think, that there's a kind of collusion between the mainstream media and the mainstream parties. It's easier to have the old traditional parties and exclude the others. Now, what that means is that, take Advance UK, for example. They're standing for the first time in the general election, as far as I know now. And by the fact that they're not sitting there in a BBC election discussion, the message is, don't bother with them, they're outsiders. And I remember when I was in the Liberal Democrats, we used to complain about differential representation. And the Lib Dems are always moaning about not getting enough coverage because it made a difference. And I think that's true. So also here, the mainstream media is subliminally suggesting that you don't need to bother with anybody who they're not interviewing. Infuriating for those who aren't included, yes, but they do get away with it just by making a list of all the other candidates. There's also some polling. Here's some Gorton Denton constituency, and we have to be a bit careful here. But it's suggesting the Greens are marginally ahead of Reform, but Labour is doing quite well in these as well. And actually, it's a three-horse race as far as we can see here, three-horse race. But there are questions. How was the polling done? What assumptions were made? What was the way that the questions were framed? So that doesn't tell us very much, and there's not much point in speculating, because by this time tomorrow we'll get the actual votes. But if this polling is correct, then Labour's doing a lot better than the bookies are saying. And I just want to talk about that, and then I'm going to finish with a couple of comments of my own. Those are the odds. Now, I like looking at betting odds because bookies have no vested interest in telling lies. For them, this is just business. So they want to get this as accurate as possible. Roughly speaking, the Greens, according to these figures, are 6 times more likely to win than Reform. They're 1-2 on, whereas Reform's 3-1 against, depending which particular bookmakers you go to. Here's Labour at 5-1. Incidentally, that means if Labour wins, that's a pretty good steal. You put £100 on, get £500 back. It's pretty good. Plus your stake. So they're quite a good bet if you're a gambling sort. And everybody else there behind. I think that Advance UK is being underestimated a little bit there. Maybe they're just thinking about who's going to win. The Advance UK, I'm told, is polling at about 7%, 7 to 10%. We'll see again. It's difficult to know. But these figures suggest that it's essentially a race between Green and Reform. So where does this leave us? Well, my friends, I'll make a prediction that it will be either Reform or Greens that win. It would be amazing if Labour win. But if Labour does lose, that's putting much more pressure on Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer hasn't been performing well as Prime Minister. He went up to the by-election briefly, as I said, but he's just not cutting it, is he? And that's a problem for him. More significantly, if they lose the Gorton and Denton by-election, that would suggest that there are not many safe seats left for Labour MPs. And that's where the pressure comes from. It comes from the idea that if you've got less than 51% of the popular vote as a Labour MP, you could lose. That puts pressure on Keir Starmer's leadership because they want to stay as MPs. It's understandable. But I still think that Starmer will stagger on to the local elections. If the local elections are as bad as a lot of people think, that's probably when Starmer will be pushed out. So I think this by-election is a referendum on Keir Starmer's leadership. Those odds again, Labour should never have sunk to that level in a safe seat. And this could be the beginning of the end for Keir Starmer. But there's one caveat. Just imagine if Starmer beats these odds. Just imagine if he wins. That will actually secure his leadership for the time being. I'm not here to advocate for one party or another. I'm just looking at what's called psephology, the electoral mathematics of the situation. But just imagine if he wins. He'll have totally confounded his critics. If Labour pull this one out of the bag, then Starmer's not as toxic as many people, including myself, think he is. Gorton and Denton, in my view, ladies and gentlemen, it's a weather vane for the state of the Labour Party in the UK. If they lose, it's predictable, and Starmer will be under pressure. If they win, that's unpredictable, and Starmer will be in essentially joyous mood. But the subtext is whether Reform can pull this one off too. If they win, that will further boost Reform's popularity and probably push them up a few percent in the polls. But the same is true of the Greens. Although the Greens are just a protest vote here, this isn't about the environment, it's not about climate crisis, it's about people not wanting to vote Labour and not wanting to vote Reform. But if the Greens win, they'll have a small lift. They're not going to become the next government, but they'll have a small lift. But that will cause huge problems for Labour because it'll show that the Greens are tolerable as an alternative to Labour, and the Greens are reasonably well organised around the country, and that will eat away at the Labour vote. The Greens could therefore become, for Labour, what Reform has become for the Conservatives. And if that happens, who knows what's going to happen at the next general election? A split vote on the left, a split vote on the right, a lack of clarity about where the Conservatives are going, but I promise you they won't win this by-election, nor will the Lib Dems. And we're actually in potentially 5-party politics, maybe even 6-party politics. And what of Advance? Watch them. They're like Red Bull many years ago in Formula One. They didn't win anything, but now they're winning everything. They could be the same. Politics is in a very fluid state in the United Kingdom now. Much more so than when I was an MP. And it's all down to what you, the voters, think. I'll leave you with a question. If you were in Gorton and Denton, who would you vote for? Would you vote tactically for the Greens to stop Reform from winning? Would you vote for Reform, or would you simply say, I'm following my principles and I'm going to vote for Lib Dems or maybe Advance UK and give them a chance? What's in your mind is probably going to be reflective of what's going on in Gorton and Denton too. What journey are you making? This time tomorrow, we'll do an analysis of the outcome of that by-election. And I'll be able to tell you my view about what this referendum on Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, tells us about his future leadership. And I'll finish with this. I don't think Labour will win. If they do, credit to Labour. It'll be the turnaround of the decade. I'm Lembit Öpik. Please do like and subscribe to Unprecedented TV on YouTube. Doesn't cost you anything, and it helps us. So have a good day. If you are in Gorton and Denton, don't forget to vote and put it in the comments why you voted, how you did. Thanks so much for watching.
Immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages.